Okay, techies, welcome or welcome back to kaetalkstech. I'm Kay, owner of K Info Tech Consulting and Services. So let's talk tech. So this is interview questions, part three, final part. Um, I have another interview question for us. That uh, how many do I have more? I only have a couple more questions for you. So the one question you might get is, can you share a time when you failed? What happened and what did you learn? Okay. You might see that question as, can you share a time when you couldn't fix a problem? What steps did you take? Now, I've been very lucky in my career not to have anything that I couldn't solve or to have anything that I failed on, but if you say you don't have anything, then you just look arrogant and you may not be believed. And, I have struggled to try and come up with something because I'm really extremely careful. Like, I check everything 5 times just because I've seen it happen. And I don't want to be that person. I know one time I was working somewhere and this manager, this is when I was still a developer. When you're a developer, you come in as a new developer. The job that you're going to get is writing a report, okay? And they're going to give you that job so that you can't muck anything up, right? So they want to let you work. They want to let you get used to the environment, but they don't need anything screwed up. So basically, you're going to get a report. Whatever you asked to write, it's not going to update anything. That's the way they used to do it, okay? Now, I don't know. But anyway, back at a time when they should have still been doing that, they gave this developer who had only been on the job a year just the nicest, sweetest guy. They gave him a purge program to code. Now, I don't think that his manager was a good manager because I watched the manager. Like, this thing, first of all, this thing, like, I don't know what he did, but he wiped out a lot of data that shouldn't have been wiped out. And it was mucked up beyond recognition, which we call a foobar. Okay, this thing was a mess. This was back in the day when they didn't really have real time processing. And so they had to roll back all the data, all the processing back to the last backup, which was a week ago, and reapply every day's work for a whole week. At that time, when things like that happened, managers would be in the computer room talking with the ops guys. I don't know what they're talking about. Well, I have some idea, but this was a mess. And his manager came to my team and sat in front of me. I was the lead developer at that time, technical lead. And the manager, who really didn't have any technical background, but he was manager who knew a lot about business. So he was over this team. And he told us, well, we did this and we did that, and then Joe ran the purge. So he put that guy's name out there, and I instantly lost all respect for him. You know, we know that you didn't code it, and we know there's only so many people on your team. So you don't have to say who exactly did it, you know. You win as a team and you lose as a team, and internally you look at what happened to make sure that it won't happen again. But you don't put the person's name out there like that. So I was really unhappy with that, and I told myself I would never do that because I thought it was kind of disgusting. um, in any event, if you wiped out a lot of data like that, don't use that, okay? Don't use that. Try to come up with something that is not that big a deal, but was important. So I've only come up with what I think is a good answer in thinking about doing this video. And I think if I'm asked that again, here's what I'm going to say. I haven't really done anything that's... I'm sorry about that. I was running out of power. So what I'm going to say if I get asked this question is I haven't really done anything that has impacted the work in a negative way, but there is one thing that I carry with me, and that is that I should always listen to my intuition, because one time I didn't, and it caused a lot of problems. It wasn't anything that I did. It was actually something that someone else did, but I knew it was wrong. I knew it's not that it was really wrong. Well, let me tell you what happened. So, I had a job to rewrite a program because the program had been just, the program was 20 years old. It was causing a lot of technical debt, a lot of problems, and it was a major program that produced legal statements of people's brokerage positions, right? That is a legal document. And I asked my manager at the time, because I was still in my 20s, okay, this is going to be a big challenge. I think I can do it, but the statements that I come out with, they may not look exactly like the ones that are printed today in terms of line spacing. I would get all the data right, I would get everything right, but I can't follow the line spacing in this program. It doesn't make any sense. It's no sort of like it's nobody can follow this. And so what I need to know is that going to be a problem if I don't have the exact line spacing? Like I might have more pages on a statement than, I mean, it'll look nice, but I might have more pages on a statement than exists today. Or I might have less pages because of the blank lines specifically. And are the business people going to look at something like that? He said, oh, no. As long as the data is right, it should be good. Don't worry about it. Now, I knew that person didn't have a lot of tech knowledge, right? And because I had the presence of mind to ask that question, I should have covered myself, right? And said, let's have a meeting with the business team before we do the work, so we can make sure that they're going to be okay with this. But I just took his word for it, and of course he was wrong. And so the very first thing the business team did was compare the number of pages in these thousands and thousands and thousands of statements that were printed to production, and it didn't match, right? And they were not happy. He was able to convince them to look at individual statements and explain the situation, but it was touch and go there for a while. And that was in the day when people there were tech people and then there was everybody else. So they were always kind of suspicious of tech people and didn't really understand tech. So I would need to shorten this answer a lot, but yeah, I learned to always trust my intuition. Okay, so let me see if I can squeeze this in under a minute. The other questions that you want to ask are, what are the next steps? And when they ask you, do you have any questions for them? You want to ask them, what are you going to be working on? How many people are on the team? What's the structure of the team? And my personal favorite question, what does the ideal candidate look like? That way you can figure out if you're going to get hired or not without asking about yourself directly. Okay, that's it. That's all I have for you. That's the end of part 3. I hope you found this helpful. Like, share, subscribe. Go to kaetalkstech.com and contact me through there for some coaching. And then come back here when we will continue to talk tech.